Hey everyone, this is Mike, and earlier today, Ori and the Will of the Wisps came out. I've been playing it for a good 2 hours right now, and I thought I'd do some first impressions on the game, which, as you can probably tell by my smiley voice, is really good. So, Ori and the Blind Forest was a really good game, but I did have some problems with it, mainly the combat system, that it wasn't super fleshed out. Now, other than that, the game was fantastic. I played through the original, I bought the definitive edition as well when that came out to get some of the extra story content, and the game was great. 100%ed it, one of my favorite games for sure, of all time even. But now Will of the Wisps came out, I'm waiting for it for quite a long time. It got delayed once as well, which was a little bit of a bummer, but now it's finally here, and it's really good. So, the combat system itself and the way how you progress a little bit as well when it comes down to like obtaining skills and that kind of stuff has changed quite drastically. So in Will of the Wisps, it feels a lot more like a RPG, I guess you could call it, where you're interacting with different NPCs, you obtain currency to then buy certain items from those NPCs as well, and there's a lot more questing going on, like there's main quests, side quests, rumors and stuff that you have to go and investigate, and there's also spirit trials, which is something that I didn't really expect there to be, but it's really fun because of how the movement system in this game works and that kind of stuff. So if you haven't played the original Blind Forest one, you can technically hop straight into Will of the Wisps, but I would highly recommend you to play Blind Forest first. Main reason is that Will of the Wisps is a continuation of the story, so certain characters that you come across you will remember from the Blind Forest, but the thing is that Will of the Wisps takes place in a completely different part of the world, so technically outside of the introduction cutscene that you're given, you don't need more than that to be on track for this story, because it is a completely different story. So if you want to just play Will of the Wisps, you can totally do that. I'd still recommend you play Blind Forest first though, because Blind Forest just is such a great game as well, and it will actually make you appreciate this game, Will of the Wisps, even more so because of how the systems have changed. Now, I enjoy this kind of game a whole lot more because you get to choose a lot more stuff. Like in Blind Forest, it was basically just a linear progression almost, where there was a lot of backtracking that you had to do because you would obtain certain skills or abilities, and you would need those to be able to progress in certain old areas as well, where you have that same system here in place as well with Will of the Wisps, but you now have a little bit more of a choice. For example, I'll show it on screen right now as well. There is a vendor that sells you abilities, and certain abilities don't consume like energy, some do, and certain areas require you to have certain abilities. For example, I bought the Hammer Smash because I immediately had to think I'm probably gonna have to smash through floors at some point or through walls to get to certain areas. Lo and behold, of course I needed that hammer, so that's one of the reasons why I chose that first. But if I, for example, wanted to be like, well, no, I would rather have some more ranged combat options, for example, I would grab the spear. And then, for example, the second time I saw this merchant, I decided to just upgrade my hammer even more, because his ground slam is a very powerful attack, but it is also easy to miss if enemies are jumping around quite a bit, so that's why I upgraded my ground slam basically. Now, when it comes down to your passives, it's quite different as well. So before, the way it worked was you would basically gain experience as you fought monsters. Once your experience bar was full, you would gain an experience point, and then you would use 1, 2, even maybe 3 points of that to unlock passive nodes along a skill tree sort of thing. And this skill tree would just upgrade the abilities that you had. Now, when it comes down to this game, your experience is basically replaced as a different currency, so it still looks the same, still feels the same, but instead of filling up an experience gauge, it's basically some kind of a gold currency now that you use to buy upgrades and skills from these different merchants, and even maps and stuff if you want. Like, you can just basically go through the game without ever buying a map, but of course having the map shows you those different key points of interest, like for example bonus experience, life force, energy nodes, that kind of stuff. So you do really want to buy those maps, in my opinion. And then of course that gold is also used for those different abilities and stuff. Now, when it comes down to your passives, back in Blind Forest you would just have that tree, you upgrade it, and you have the passives permanently. But in this game you have to choose which passives that you want. For example, I want to take less damage, or I want to stick to walls or something like that. You have to all equip those things, and you only have a limited amount that you can equip, so you have to kind of pick and choose which passives that you want the most. Now, at the moment, I basically have enough slots to get all the passives that I have available to me right now, but also I'm only a good 2.5 hours into the game, so I don't have everything unlocked yet, basically. So once I do have all the passives unlocked, I definitely won't have enough room to be able to equip all of them, so I have to go and choose which ones that I find the most important. Same thing goes for your skills. Now, the way the combat system works in this game is a lot more interesting than in the original one, the Blind Forest. Because here, you basically have to pick and choose 3 abilities that you want to be using. These abilities can go from not using any energy, to using a lot of energy, to using a little bit of energy. And some of these abilities are actually quite necessary. So, for example, the ones that I have unlocked right now, I could have gotten more, but I decided to upgrade my hammer more. I have my basic attack, which is some kind of a light sword looking thing instead of your wisp that is attacking now. I have a health regeneration one, the one that you had in Blind Forest as well. Then I have my hammer, and I have my bow. Now, the hammer and the bow are also important when it comes to traversing around the map. The hammer I had to buy myself. The bow is something that I got from a ability tree, I believe. And basically, with the bow, I can shoot certain points of interest on the map, and then they will activate certain sequences, like, for example, bringing up a platform or opening a door or something like that, which is important to get through the rest of the map. Then the hammer, as I said before, was important to smash through certain walls that I can only smash through with the hammer, to then get different points of interest available to me, like, for example, I believe the Spirit Trials was looked at that as well. And there's a couple of other areas that you needed that hammer for in order to get to it. Of course, it is a game that requires a lot of backtracking, so if you decide to not get the hammer first thing, then you can still get something else and then just come back to those areas later to then smash through those walls once you do have that hammer unlocked. So I do think it's a lot of fun. You do only get access to 3 abilities at a time, but on the other hand, you also have everything available technically, because you just hold down left trigger, this pauses the game for you, and then it brings up the ability screen, I guess you could call it, and then you just pick and choose which 3 abilities that you want to have available to you. Since I only have 4, basically whenever I'm in combat, I just have my sword, my bow, and my hammer, because of course the bow is not only used to activate certain things on the map, you can also use it as an actual ranged weapon, even though it doesn't really do that much damage, but still, nevertheless, you can use it. So basically I have those 3, and then when I take too much damage, hold down left trigger, I equip my health regeneration one, I try to get into a safe place, I regen my HP, left trigger again, equip my bow again, and I'm good to go from there. So it's really cool how you can just pick and choose which abilities that you want anytime during combat as well. So it basically makes it so that you don't have to compromise on anything. Of course, you do need to take into account certain abilities cost energy, and you only have a limited supply of energy, and they are used for quite a wide variety of different abilities, so you do have to keep that in mind. Spirit Trials, also something that I wasn't really expecting, but on the other hand, is a really good thing for this kind of game, because the movement system in Ori has always been really good. We do have a new skill right now, which is a dash. I don't think we had that in the original one. If we did, then I forgot, because it's been such a long time since I played Blind Forest. But basically, because the movement system is so good, because the parkour in this game has always been a lot of fun, you now basically have some kind of a time trial where you have to find the finish line, you have to find the starting position, and then you just activate the Spirit Trial, and this will show you the way that you have to run first, and then it just gives you a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then you have to run against your spirit, basically, and then you have to try and beat it. If you manage to beat the time that your spirit put down, then you get a reward at the end as well. The gameplay that I'm showing in the background from the Spirit Trial is after you've completed it, because once you've beaten it, you actually are able to pair up against other real players. Now, I didn't really enjoy it as much when it was against real players, because there's so many different ghosts on the field, and the first 2 runs that I tried, I just lost track of where my character was in all of the chaos, basically, of all the different Oris flying around. But once I got used to it, kind of, it worked alright. But still, it was a pretty cool thing to do, especially the first time around that you do it when you're just racing against that one ghost. It's a lot of fun to just try and beat it and then just get rewarded for it at the end as well, because the movement system is just so great. But I think I'm just gonna stop it right there, because otherwise I'm gonna just keep talking about this game and I want to go back to playing the game instead. So those are kind of my first impressions on Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Really good impressions so far, really enjoying it. I will probably make a follow-up video as well when I am done with the game, kind of like take a look at all of the different things that I am thinking about right now that might be there but that I don't have unlocked yet or something like that. But so far, really enjoying it, can definitely recommend other people to pick it up. It's another Ori game. Blind Forest was great, so I knew Will of the Wisp was going to be pretty good as well if it was anything close to Blind Forest, and I can only say that it is even much better than Blind Forest was, so I'm really happy with the way it turned out to be. But that's gonna be it for me. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.